It's the Daylight Midnight Show.
Hello and welcome to the Daylight Midnight Show. My name is Greg and I really need to buy a new dress because it keeps coming up on Outfit Roulette and I keep wearing the same one. So I might put that on my list for this week. Must go and buy a new dress. I have something that I want to show you before we get on with the show to start with. We saw my brother-in-law last weekend, and normally that wouldn't be a newsworthy event, but we haven't seen him for well over a year. Because of the pesky pandemic and because of where he lives and the age of his dad and the different zones that we had and the different tiers, and all the other things we've all been dealing with for the last 15 months or so, we haven't had a chance to see him for over a year. So it was great to see him last weekend. And he brought me my birthday present that I should have had last December. And I want to show you it. His name's Colin. He does lots of clever things. But one of the things that he does is he does etching on glass. So he'll do bespoke glasses for people's birthdays and things. And this is the one that he did for me. Now, I'm hoping you can see it. It says Daylight Midnight Show, and it has a picture of a sun and a moon as my own little Daylight Midnight Show glass. And I would like to use it or have it on display, but I'm worried about smashing it, and it's a one-off and it means a lot to me, so it's going to have to be off camera for now. But many thanks indeed to Colin for that one. So let's crack on with the show then by revealing our wonderful word of the week. This is a word that I didn't know existed 7 days ago, but I found it while reading and researching, and so I've decided to share it with you. And this week it is this word. Now, it looks like it should be pronounced poetaster. It's actually pronounced poetester, I believe, and it means an inferior poet, a writer of trashy verse, especially one with pretensions. First coined back in the year 1521 by Erasmus. 80 years later, it was used by the British satirical playwright Ben Jonson, and he wrote a play in which he basically slagged off a couple of other poets he knew that he'd had a disagreement with. So nowadays we have rap artists do things called diss tracks, where one rap group will slate another rap group and then that group will do a song replying. This was happening 500, 600 years ago. Ben Jonson did it. It was called poetester, and it stayed in modern parlance. And as it means an inferior poet, anyone that's read any of my poetry or seen my poetry videos on YouTube will know it applies to me. So from the word of the week, we swing round to the door of delights, and you'll notice I've had a bit of a rejig. Last week I was desperately trying to get the picture of our Atlantic puffins up on the door of delights, and there wasn't room because I'd stupidly printed it in landscape instead of portrait, so I couldn't get it up. So what I've done is I've moved our adverts from earlier in the series that way. The house rules sheet is now there. Pogo Dave Penguin, our show mascot, is here. He'll be looking across to this blank space, which is where we can now fit our currently unnamed Atlantic puffins. And I keep calling them penguins. I know someone pointed this out to me when I did the facts all about puffins. I used the word penguins quite often, so sorry about the confusion. But our seabirds are the Atlantic puffins, so they are now sitting there. Marvellous. Oh, and also pinned to the door of delights we have this, which I would imagine is this week's topical limerick. So the story is this. I'm going to take you to California, specifically Sonoma County, where there is a place called Santa Rosa. And you might well know that California is well known as a wine producing region. They have these vast wineries, huge vineyards, and something that you might spot if you look at pictures of them is they have these huge cooling fans. And they're used to circulate air across the vines so that the grapes don't freeze in the winter months. It keeps a nice sort of regular temperature. And some of them are massive. They look like the wind turbines that we have in the UK that generate power and electricity. So a couple of weeks ago, there was a call to the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office from one of these vineyards in Santa Rosa because there'd been a car parked suspiciously right near one of these big fans. They didn't know who it belonged to. They hadn't found anybody. So the sheriffs came in, and the first thing this deputy noticed was that there was a hat sitting on a piece of old farm equipment. So they went over and investigated, they listened, and they could hear someone calling, and it turned out a 38-year-old gentleman was stuck in the shaft of one of these fans. So I'll refer you now. They had to call the firefighters out to rescue him. He had minor injuries. He was being treated in hospital but expected to make a full recovery. I'd just like to read you a bit of the statement from the sheriff's office. The man indicated he liked to take pictures of the engines of old farm equipment. After a thorough investigation, which revealed the farm equipment wasn't antique, the motivation to climb into the fan shaft remains a total mystery. But it goes on to say he's going to be charged with trespassing and drug possession. That might be a clue as to his motivation into climbing this thing and getting stuck in it. He's going to make a full recovery. He's probably going to end up in prison because he was already on probation and he broke the rules of it by being in this vineyard in the first place. So a limerick about this story. I can climb up that fan, a man laughed. Then he found himself stuck in the shaft. In his bag there was seen lots of amphetamine. Doing drugs made his decision daft. Nice rhymes there and a good anti-drug message for the kids. I will give myself a rare A grade for that one. So from the Door of Delights we swing round to the brown folder, which of course now has its own theme song. The lead singer of Slade was a man called Noddy Holder. Let's see what is written in Gregory's brown folder. That's a work in progress. So the brown folder is something that I write little things down in that I want to talk to you about. I've just dropped the ukulele on a guitar. That's not going to be good for either instrument. So this week, quite a few things. Point number one, I would rather see a kid nap than a kidnap. Point number two, this is one of those 3 o'clock in the morning thoughts, and I don't know what provoked this, but I was thinking about the programme Deal or No Deal, which hasn't been on for years, and I never really used to watch it. Was there ever anyone on the other end of the phone, or was it all improvised by Noel Edmonds? Now, I'm going to read another sheet of similar stuff. This is from when I used to be on radio, and I've written, basically this is like the brown folder, I've written a few ideas down about things I wanted to discuss on air, and I don't know whether I ever used them, but I thought I'll rehash them now. It says on it Friday the 17th of June. There was a Friday the 17th of June 5 years ago, but I don't think I was doing radio then, so I think this dates from either 2011 or 2005, but these were a few thoughts that were going through my head at the time, so I thought I'd share them with you. Number one, does tea taste better in a dirty mug? I think I've discussed this on this show before. Instead of washing a cup every time you use it, make a mug of tea in the morning and keep using that same mug throughout the day. The tea tastes better and better. Isn't it funny how quickly road rage dissipates when the car you approach is driven by a rugby forward? I hate to think what was happening in my life at this point that I wrote that down. Why is someone with hair shorter than my stubble waiting in line to pay £25 for a haircut? You see, this is the pre-COVID days when I used to go to the barbers and queue up, and I think I was just having an impatient day and someone in front of me was waiting to have a haircut that looked like it didn't need a haircut, so I moaned about it. We need a put the phone away day, something I still think would be good once a week, but I think is increasingly unlikely to happen. The final thing I've written down here, if you are watching the television programme Gogglebox, you are sitting on a sofa watching a television programme in which people are sitting on a sofa watching television. So that's a few memories from my time past. And I think that's just about it. That's all I want to go around. So let's get on with outfit roulette, because I want to get this cowboy hat off my head, because it keeps digging in my head. My vocabulary and my way of speaking has gone very odd this week. If one of the rules wasn't that I never re-record the show, I try and re-record this and speak properly. I'm blaming the vaccine. So let's do this properly. Let's spin that so you see that I can't see what I'm doing. Randomising it completely, it's going to be black, which seems to come up really often. So black in column 1 is my black jacket, so next week I'll be wearing my black jacket. Underneath that I will be wearing whatever is in green, so I'll be wearing a wetsuit. No! It just gets really, really hot. And finally, from the third column, we will have red, which means I'll be wearing a tie. So next week there'll be a black jacket, a wetsuit and a tie, and more of nonsense like you've had in this one. So a rhyming couplet to end the show on. I got my birthday present 6 months later than he'd planned, but thanks to Colin's cleverness, I have this in my hand. I will see you next week. Have a great 7 days. Well, that was rubbish.